Thanks for the opportunity to talk today. And I'm here, retired Admiral Len, as you've heard, a proud surface warrior and a former nuclear weapons handling, nuclear weapons safety, and nuclear weapons assurity officer. I am not a nuclear engineer. I've spent my years working in a world where safety and risk are always in the forefront of everything that I've done. Working in dangerous environments requires that everyone involved is properly trained, exercised, and prepared to both conduct the operation in accordance with properly approved and tested rules and regulations, and be prepared to react to conditions when those regulations fail to produce the desired outcome. In other words, respond to a disaster. I've learned to examine risk and inspect what you expect. I've learned that training and adherence to the rules is paramount to both safety and success. I've also learned that when you violate or alter safety conditions, you seriously place your people and yourself at risk. Throughout my career, I found that rules and regulations are written for a purpose. In my business, primarily because of somebody had lost their lives. But the more I looked into this self-regulated system of oversight, I found that condition that I just mentioned not to be adhered to, almost not at all. Modifying and altering safety conditions that were clearly established to define safety conditions seemed to be wavered or exempted without significant review or testing to ensure the risk factor that was originally required the rule to be put in place was in fact compromised by its change. In August of last year, Songs had a near miss. Songs is San Onofre Nuclear Generation Facility. Had a near miss when a 54-ton container nearly fell 18 feet into its concrete holding facility. While that in itself may scare you, and it should, that is not what scared me. What scared me is that we would not have been told about the incident unless a whistleblower had come out in public hearing to tell the world that he couldn't stand by and not hear what had happened in that public hearing. If it were not for him, we would not have been made aware that this situation had occurred. And I am convinced that in this self-regulated process, that it would have been kept to a mere minimum at best. Since that time, I've focused my attention on learning more. And what I've uncovered is, to be honest, astounding. I have come to realize that the handling of the most hazardous material known on the face of the earth was in fact being handled like any other commercial waste product. I have found that basic safety requirements have been waived or contorted in favor of expediency and cost. I have found that regulations that are meant to provide the necessary safeguards for the material are often lessened or waived to provide shortcuts for solution. Many that I've reviewed have been issued without a thorough study or an open discussion amongst experts and engineers. I have witnessed numerous exchanges of credible experts in the field of oceanography, seismic geology, physics, metallurgy, chemistry, nuclear engineering, and many more, have their concerns be blatantly disregarded or ignored by the Regulatory Commission and those in the process. I have seen a total disregard for peer review and a concise scientific research when there is a difference of opinion amongst the experts involved. Perceptions of difference are not included as part of the process. The trust and confidence of the community and the experts within it have been eroded by the smug and unprofessional manner in which the safety and scientific concerns of those involved have been addressed. NRC Regulation Title 10, Part 72 are, or should I say were, deliberately drafted to ensure this highly dangerous material was handled in the most secure and safe manner possible. However, over the course of the last few decades, regulations have been weakened, allowing for exceptions that are simply and clearly not in the best interest of our safety. Besides the siting issue, and I won't get into that, San Onofre is actually in a bay referred to by early settlers as Earthquake Bay, 100 yards from the 5 and 100 feet from today's ocean front. Probably the most egregious relaxation in my review is that provided by the thin wall container system and the loading process chosen to house the material for some, if not all, an indeterminable time frame. Of the 10 clear requirements established under Title 10, the thin wall container only provides a surety of 1. And the system used to transport and load those containers into their storage has an extremely high likelihood of scratching, denting, or gouging the wall of that container, which from a metallurgical perspective provides for the opportunity for severe corrosion problems, which ultimately result in a potential breach of that container. A situation that the NRC themselves have acknowledged but failed to detect on its approval. As a matter of fact, a former engineer revealed that had they known this potential existed, they would have never approved it. What that tells me is they put into place a system for the movement of a 54-ton container that they had not tested, evaluated, or in fact, seen. These thin wall containers have no internal monitoring and no capability to be currently offloaded or transported, a specific requirement of Title 10. The only way to determine if there is failure is when the external monitors in the concrete cask detect a radiation problem. The problem here is that those sensors are in an environment which are naturally ventilated. How is that possibly safe? Today, regardless of this fact, there are nearly 2,500 of these canisters buried throughout the United States. I've uncovered countless instances where concerns have gone unanswered or worse, ignored. Hearings to address local problems are often held outside of the region, and comments by the public are limited to 3 minutes. And the comments or questions are pre-selected by the staff, not by the individuals in presence. These issues are extremely complex. They deserve more than a 3-minute opportunity, and they deserve better review. Blatant violations of procedures have been uncovered, yet little to no action has been taken. While findings reveal wrongdoing, the violator is permitted to continue operations without real serious consequences. Recently, the NRC handed down a $116,000 fine that was considered a flagrant violation. While it's the first in a long string of gotchas, to those who are watching the fine, I can tell you that $116,000 is nothing more than symbolic. This was levied on a company that made more than $3 billion on ratepayers' monies. About a month ago, there was a hearing held in the Congress questioning the FAA about its oversight of Boeing and potential collusion therein. While this situation may sound less than acceptable, I would contend that the situation at the NRC is twice as bad. I've often referred to as being in court where a 5-time DUI individual is telling the judge that he will never do it again, trust me. And the judge is stupid enough to believe him. In the world I come from, teams are made up of individuals who first receive specific training and equipment, the procedures they're to operate, and the safety for a role that they are about to play in the hands of other members of the team. Once they prove themselves proficient, they are considered qualified to then join the team with similarly trained individuals who are then given the opportunity to train and learn as a team. Extensive exercise scenarios are conducted, and each member learns what the other member must do in order to provide a safe environment. Once that level is reached, they undergo an extensive testing and evaluation period to prove that they are certified to conduct operations without fear of placing themselves or others at risk. That's what you might have expected or expect of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission in moving a 54-ton container. of highly radioactive material. Well, guess again. While regulations imply that that should have happened, what I found is it'd be far from the truth. I couldn't believe it. As a matter of fact, it was revealed to me that the operator of the lift equipment, the day the incident took place, was chosen to perform the duties not because of his expertise in the handling equipment, but because his rad count was the lowest of the team. I've even found out that the OSHA inspectors who were on site were not nuclear certified, that they were simply industrial engineers. These people have never trained before, exercised with dummy equipment, or passed any significant training requirement that provides them the safety requirements to handle nuclear material. They were, for all practical purposes, hired off the street. Worse, they had never drilled together or received any training on what to do should there have been an accident. The list goes on, and I only have another minute. There's a bigger concern that is of point, and that is, for 9 years in the last part of my career, I was a General Courts Martial Authority as a regional commander. After close examination into conditions of both oversight provided by the regulatory authority and the documented repeat offenses found, if asked by my seniors, I would be forced to conclude that I had lost all trust and confidence in their ability to remain in command. I would recommend a complete investigation be conducted. I would recommend a cessation of all operations and a relief for the chain of command responsible for the disregard and blatant changing of standards and safety conditions and operating procedures. I hate to say this, but it's time for the Congress to address the problem and accept that there is no walking away from a nuclear accident. Failure to address the concerns for a national solution that involves our nuclear waste problem is critical. Today, we are creating waste sites that should something happen, it will leave portions of this country uninhabitable for not if hundreds, but tens of thousands of years. And if the worst should happen, that there be an explosion, and I'm not saying there would or could or would, but the risk is always there. Maybe tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands could lose their lives. The Congress needs to retake control and make sure these regulations are adhered to, and that the oversight of Congress to change or approve any modification thereunto is done so only with their approval. The oath of office demands it of them. We, the people, especially those I represent in Southern California, have lost faith and confidence when it comes to how Songs and the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is upholding the standards that we expect to be applied when our safety is considered. Thank you.